What's up, guys? It's Chief here, and today I'm going to be showing you the best players to invest in at the beginning of EAFC 24. But before we jump into that, I'm going to show you the easiest way for you to get some coins. If you guys are looking for the cheapest and most reliable coins on the market, make sure to head over to utnice.com and use code CHIEF for 5% off at checkout. Now let's get right into this video. All right, boys, so diving into this video, we have a ton to cover here between investments, when to buy cards, when to sell cards, everything like that. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And what we're going to be covering today is meta gold cards. Now, if you don't know what this means, essentially meta golds are the cards that everybody aspires to get in their team because they're sort of just like the best in the game. So you're talking about Erling Haaland, you're talking about Mo Salah, Ousmane Dembele, basically any gold that is just good in game, high pace, good shooting, good dribbling, anything like that. So before we dive into exactly who to invest in, let's go ahead and talk about the price trends that we usually see in these cards, when to buy, when to sell them. So first off, we're going to split these cards into basically two categories here. The first category is going to be like our best of the best cards that everybody wants. Haaland, Salah, Son, Vinicius Jr., everything like that. And the second category is going to be kind of like a tier below that, where I would throw like 84 rated cards, 85 rated cards that are still really good in game. And I'm taking Luis Diaz as an example here as an 84. So when to buy on these cards is typically the exact same between these two tiers. Essentially, you just want to buy these cards as early as possible. You'll see that these cards are really, really cheap at the beginning of the game, and then they see a skyrocket in price. Now, what is the reason for that? Well, first of all, when the game first comes out and it's the web app stages, number one, there isn't a ton of demand for players just because when only the web app is out, nobody can play games, so there's no real reason to have players. And number two is when the web app in your web app stages, not a ton of people have a lot of coins. There isn't coins in circulation, so people don't really have a bunch of coins to buy these top tier players. So that's kind of the reason these are low. And then you see this kind of shoot up in price right when the ultimate edition of the game gets released. And the reason for that is number one, obviously people have access to the game, so they want to buy their players, build their teams so they can jump into games. And number two is it's a lot easier to make coins once the full game is released, and everybody on Ultimate Edition gets their 4,600 FIFA points. So you see these massive rises in price. So essentially, buying and when the rises happen are the exact same. Now, selling is very different between these two groups, between the upper echelon and kind of that lower tier meta card. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So what you'll find with a majority of these upper echelon best players like Holland here is they were highest on October 4th or October 5th. Now, this typically happens every single week is these cards are highest on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then the Thursday, Friday they drop. And this is because Thursday we get division rivals and weekend league rewards. Friday we get a new promo, everything like that, lots of packs being opened, lots of supply. So, you'll basically always see a dip on Thursday, Friday, and they'll be highest on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So, whenever you're selling these cards, we're typically going to look to sell on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So, for this first group, we're going to look to sell basically on the Tuesday or Wednesday of the first rewards for the full standard edition. Now, last year, FIFA 23, this was October 4th, October 5th range was kind of where you were going to sell these cards. This year, that is going to fall October 3rd, October 4th. So essentially just a day earlier, because again, we want to sell on the Tuesday or Wednesday because we're going to see a drop on the 5th and the 6th here. Now, slightly different with these kind of lower tier 84 rated cards, whatever kind of metas you're looking at here. You'll see with Luis Diaz here, he sees this big rise and then he drops a week earlier. You'll see September 28th, this Tuesday, Wednesday, 27th, 28th is when he's at his highest. Whereas Holland, September 27th, 28th, you see this kind of spot where he flattens out because of all this supply. However, he continues to rise. Now, the reason for this is obviously with these lower rated cards, they're a lot more common in packs. And as people get more and more coins, they're wanting to move on to these higher tier of players. So if you're sitting on somebody like an 83, 84 rated meta card, I would sell them on this week earlier, which this year is going to be like September 26th, 27th, the 28th, if I'm correct, or 27th is the no, the 29th is when full standard edition releases. This will be the rewards on the 28th. I would look to sell on the 27th for any of these 83, 84 rated cards that are kind of like, really good in teams, but are going to see a drop with rewards. One that I think is probably another good example would be like an Angel Correa this year. He again has a really, really nice card, and I expect in that first week to be expensive. However, when you look at this card again, on this Wednesday, he's very expensive, and then you get this rewards dump where just he's getting packed a ton because he's 83 rated, and he just drops in price. And then the next rewards, he just plummets here. So whenever we get those big chunks of supply, that's when you're going to see these 83s, 84s really, really drop here. So I think we've covered enough when to buy, when to sell, and this kind of applies to if you pack a player as well. If I were to pack, some like a gold Mo Salah, I'm basically just going to hold him until this Wednesday rolls around, and I think he's going to be highest in price. So we have kind of covered now exactly what we think these prices are going to do. I would expect this to be the exact same thing this year. So on those 83s, 84s, we are going to be looking to sell on Wednesday, the 27th. And those really, really high end cards, we're going to look to sell on October the 4th. And we're going to look to buy these as soon as possible. Now, who exactly should we be investing in? What are going to be the meta cards this year? So, number one thing we can fall back on is cards that we just know are basically good every single year and are meta. So, first of all, we're looking at people that, have 5-star skills, 5-star weak foot, anything like that. And then we're looking for guys that are going to be in popular leagues or nations, anything like that. So for me, I typically like to stick around the Premier League a lot, or maybe stick with like French cards. So for example, Heung-min Son here is going to be a great one. Always a great card in FIFA, 4-star skills, 5-star weak foot. Another one that you guys can look into is going to be Ousmane Dembele here. He's been upgraded to an 86 this year. He is a crazy, crazy card, and he always rises. So we can see here, he's 5-star, 5-star, and he's French on PSG. He's basically just going to be a no-brainer. And typically, I try to look for guys that are similar cards to what they're going to be. So what I mean by that is basically if I'm going to invest in Ousmane Dembele in EAFC 24, why don't I go check what he did last year in FIFA 23? And again, he's even more meta in EAFC 24 being 86 rated with a better card. So this Ousmane Dembele, we would basically expect him as an 83 here to see the same trend that we saw with Luis Diaz. And you can see he skyrockets in price here, drops on this Thursday, and he's even a bit more meta, being more expensive. He's about double the price of Luis Diaz. So he actually sees a decent rebound into this October 4th range. So this 86 Ousmane Dembele, I would expect to behave very much like we saw this Erling Haaland here. Now, not as much of a rise, but I would basically expect that second weekend for this card to be kind of the spot. So if you invest in Ousmane Dembele, October the 4th would be your sell date. And you're basically just going to do this over and over and just look for very, very similar cards. Now, in my Discord, I'm going to have sort of like a spreadsheet that I put together of cards that kind of saw the biggest rise this year and cards that are going to be similar in the upcoming game. So I think this is important to look at. And while I'm pointing out the players, I also want you guys to have this spreadsheet readily available. So I'll make sure to drop that in the Discord. So another one here, again, I like to stick around the Premier League. is going to be Christopher Nkunku. He is on Chelsea now. He's French. He's got an unbelievable card. Dropped his pace quite a bit, which worries me, but I still expect to see a nice rise on this card. One of the guys that I think is going to be a phenomenal investment this year is going to be Sandro Tonali. He got a ridiculous card. He's on Newcastle now. He's 86 rated, so I think he's going to be a great investment. And for me, a lot of times I like to opt for the attacking options in terms of these investments, but defenders are also very, very good options, especially if you're opting for, some of those meta defenders. I mean, one of the biggest risers last year was Kyle Walker here. Again, because number one, Erling Haaland was super meta. We had a Kevin De Bruyne in form early on. So depending on kind of like what the best cards are, links to them that are meta can also do very, very well. And then there's one last thing I want to touch on in terms of investments, and it's going to be talking about women's cards in EAFC 24. So last year, what we saw massive rises and increase in cards that were lengthy. Because if you remember at the beginning of the game, lengthy was like the go-to meta. You needed strikers that were lengthy, like Holland, like Kane, anything like this, because these guys were just like crazy, crazy fast in game. The best option in game was to have lengthy players. Now, the cards that are going to rise the most this year are the cards that are the most meta. And I think there's potential that that starts out being women at the beginning of the game. The reason for this is whenever EA release something new, say like a new mechanic, a new body type, anything like that, it's usually pretty overpowered. We saw this with timed finesses back in, what is that, FIFA 20. We saw it with low drivens in FIFA 18, I think it was. We saw it with lengthy players in FIFA 23. So I think there's potential that women are very, very solid in this game. And the reason for that is we're going to have cards that, have super high dribbling, agility, anything like that. For example, like a Sophia Smith card here. However, she is literally going to be like 5'3", 5'4" in game. So they're going to be really, really good on the ball. They're going to be super agile. And if they've got skill moves and weak foot, I think they have potential to be some of the best cards in the game. So something to keep an eye out for is what the big content creators are saying are the best cards to use. And those are typically going to be the biggest risers because these are the cards that get all the hype and everybody gets interested in. So I would keep an eye out for this. I think women could potentially see some of the biggest rises this year. And even when they release new cards, everybody just gets hyped about them. For example, like with heroes, so many of these heroes last year, even the ones that aren't all that great, saw crazy, crazy rises. You see that with Ollie there. Peter Croucher was a hero that was also lengthy. And even though his card is kind of cheeks, he saw a massive rise at the beginning of the year, as you can see here, rising to 200k from literally like 30. So definitely recommend you guys keep an eye on the cards that are going to get the most hype at the beginning of the game. If you guys have questions, make sure to drop it in the comments. Feel like I covered everything I wanted to here. But guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next video.